weeping may remain for a night, but rejoicing comes in the morning. That's what we want to talk about for a few minutes. Weeping nights and joyful mornings. Weeping nights and joyful mornings. As we gather here today, most of us fall into one of two categories. We're either going through a weeping night or we're in a joyful morning. Anyone who has lived for more than just a moment knows that life is not easy for any of us. Some of us conceal our emotions better than others. Some of us are better at conveying emotions of gladness than emotions of sadness. But for all of us, life is not easy. For many of us, our accomplishments may outnumber our failures, but nevertheless, life is still not easy. Life is a series of ups and downs. Sometimes the downs can seem to be lower than the ups are higher. The person sitting next to you today may be going through a weeping night while you're in a joyful morning, and maybe the situation is reversed. But wherever you are now, let me tell you, you haven't always been there. And you won't always be there. For the one who's in a joyful morning, that's a word of warning. Be happy about your morning. Be thankful for your morning. Most importantly, remember the one who made your morning possible. But don't get so caught up in your morning that you forget that there is a night of weeping just a step away. Morning can become night real fast. Conditions can change in a moment. And all of us need to be prepared spiritually for our weeping nights. And for the one who's in a long night of weeping, this is a word of encouragement. Hold on just a little while longer. The dawn will break in your life. There can be no question that all of us would prefer to experience joyful mornings than having to deal with weeping nights. But let me tell you, the two go hand in hand. They work together. You can't have one without the other. If we want to attain joy in the morning, then we must be willing to endure the pain of the night. That might not sit well with a lot of people, but it's a reality nonetheless. If we're going to shout for joy in the morning, then first we must weep through the night. If we're going to experience the morning's brightness, then we must endure the night's distress. David, the author of this song, knows about this. He had his fair share of weeping nights and joyful mornings. He went through a weeping night when Saul tried to take his life. But he had a joyful morning when God delivered him and made him king of Israel. He had a weeping night when his adultery with Bathsheba was hidden. But he had a joyful morning when he confessed his sin to God. He had a weeping night when his son Absalom chased him from his throne. But he had a joyful morning when God returned him to Jerusalem. And because of David's joyful mornings, he was able to write this song of thanksgiving and celebration of God's deliverance. We're not quite sure from which experience in David's life that he wrote this song, but we do know that he had a reason to praise God. All you have to do is read the song. In verse 1, he exalts the Lord for lifting him up and not allowing his night to destroy him. In verse 2, he acknowledges that God heard his cry for help and healed him from sickness. In verse 3, he says that he knows it was God who had spared his life. In verse 4, he encourages others to praise God as well because he knew that he wasn't the only one that God had blessed. Then in verse 5, David says something very important. He says, weeping may remain for the night, but rejoicing comes in the morning. Well, it leads us to try to ask and answer some questions. First question that should be on our minds is, what caused the weeping? What was it that causes David to feel distress and grief? What brings us mental anguish and pain? And the truth of the matter is that the causes of weeping may differ from one person to the next. For somebody, weeping is the result of personal failure. When we mess up in life, it will cause us to weep. Personal failure will remind us that it's dangerous to think too much of yourself. For somebody, weeping is the result of conditions that we can't control. We lose a loved one. We are confronted by a tragedy that was not of our own making, and this causes us to weep. But regardless of the cause of our weeping, there is comfort in remembering that God knows all about it. And so the best thing that we can do in the midst of our weeping is to turn it over to the Lord. When we let God have control of our weeping nights, then he will enable us to clearly see the joyful morning that is approaching. When we understand what causes us to be in our night seasons, then we can look to God to show us the direction we need to go in leading us to our joyful morning. And so we have to concern ourselves with what causes us to weep. But then we must also know what it means to endure. David said, weeping may remain for a night. That tells us that it won't last forever. But now, as I say that, let me tell you, night is longer for some things than it is for others. There are times when the night passes real fast. Then there are other times when it doesn't seem like light will ever come. When your heart is aching, when you're in the midst of disappointment and distress, when you feel like you've lost everything of value in your life, you keep looking for the sun to shine. It doesn't seem like it's ever going to come. But David here comforts us with the assurance that though the weeping may remain for a season, if we will hold on and hold out, God will cause the sun to shine again. Knowing that trouble won't last always is cause to praise God even before the morning arrives. See, in Hebrew, the word endure literally means to lodge or to stop over. When we travel and we stay in a hotel, we lodge there. It's not our permanent home. We just stay there temporarily. So it is with our weeping. It lodges with us. It stops over for a night. And the night can sometimes seem very long. on. But the promise is that it doesn't stay forever. It passes, and if we can hold on through the time of its lot, God promises that He will carry us through. Church, the only thing that can give us hope in the darkest hours and transform us is to know that God is with us. That as the night lodges with us, so God also lodges with us. Do you know that He has promised that He will never leave us, nor forsake us? To a bewildered and forlorn Joshua, he gave this promise: as I was with Moses, so shall I be with you. As he prepared to depart from his disciples for the last time, Jesus said, lo, I'm with you always, even to the end of the world. We may not know how long our night is going to be, but we can know this: if we keep our hand in God's hand. If we can believe His word when He says all things work together for the good to them who love the Lord and are called according to His purpose, then we can hold on in the midst of our weeping night, because we know that God will be with us. That leads us to the final question that needs to be asked, and that is, what determines your morning? What is it that determines that morning has come? When we're going through weeping nights, we're always looking for joy in the morning to arrive. We want to know when the trial is going to be over. We want to know when the sun is going to shine again. But there's an interesting lesson here in this song that we need to pay attention to, and that is, the morning starts while it is still dark. David was a Jew. Jewish days began at sundown. In other words, as it was getting dark, the new day was beginning. And that's important because it teaches us a valuable lesson. We can't always look for the bright sunshine as being the arrival of a new day that brings joy in the morning. Joy in the morning isn't always when things seem good and bright, but joy in the morning can come in the darkest hours. It may still be dark in your life. Your situation and your circumstances may still be hanging around your neck like a millstone, but you can still have joy. Because the sun is going to shine again. It's dark in somebody's life, but it was dark on Calvary. So dark that you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. So dark that the sun hid itself and the moon turned to blood. So dark that the stars refused to shine. But even in the darkness of that hour, Jesus had started a brand new day. In the darkness of that hour, redemption started. In the darkness of that hour, regeneration started. In the darkness of that hour, salvation started. Even though it was still dark, the foundation was being laid for a joyful day. Church, your morning can come, even in the darkest hours of your life. The question is, what determines your morning? Since joyful mornings can come in the darkness of your life, that doesn't determine the morning. What determines the morning is where you seek your joy. David praised God for delivering him from his troubles and pain. And he encourages us to hold out and hold on, because although you may be weeping right now, joy comes for those who know the Lord. that simple word that we want to leave with you here. It's not over because it's dark. It's not defeat because it's dark. Dark is just laying a foundation for a brand new day. The question becomes, who are you trusting? Who are you walking with? Who do you put your hand in? Joy comes from the Lord. And when joy comes, He's able to turn the darkest night into the brightest day. When joy comes, He turns sighing into singing. When joy comes, He turns grief into joy. When joy comes, He turns our wilderness into a paradise. The psalmist says, I will bless the Lord at all times, and His praise shall continually be in my mouth. We have the promise that weeping is temporary and joy will come in the morning. So the question that I would leave you with today is, can you hold on until morning comes? Can you hold on through sorrow until morning comes? Can you hold on through sickness until morning comes? Can you hold on through misunderstanding until morning comes? Because in the morning, all of this will be a distant memory. In the morning, you will have a renewed relationship with God. In the morning, you'll have clapping in your hands and running in your feet. In the morning, you'll have praise on your tongue. In the morning, you'll have a story to tell. What the Lord has done for you, don't let the night get you. Don't let the night destroy you. Weep if you have to, but know that joy comes in the morning for those who are holding to God's unchanging hand. The doors of God's church are open. There may be someone here